Before I tell you what it is, guess. Most people guess a house. Some people guess marriage, specifically the wrong marriage. A few guess college or a car or one bad investment that wiped out a chunk of savings. I used to guess all of those too. I was wrong. And the actual answer is so quiet, so undramatic, that most people who've made this exact decision don't even remember making it. There's no signature, no closing table, no ring. It's not a decision you make once, loudly. It's a decision you make every single day, silently, by doing nothing. And I made it for almost 6 years without ever noticing I was making it at all. I'm Jake, and I've spent way too much time making money mistakes, so you don't have to. So if it's not the house, or the marriage, or the car, what is it? Let's get into it. Here's the thing about the most expensive financial decision most people ever make. It doesn't feel like a decision at all. It feels like waiting. I graduated, got a decent job, and told myself I'd start investing once things settled down. Once I had a bigger emergency fund. Once I understood it better. Once. Every one of those reasons sounded responsible, which is exactly what made them so easy to keep using. I wasn't avoiding the decision. I was postponing it in the name of being careful, which felt like the opposite of a mistake. 6 years went by like that. Just one, once I'm ready, stacked on another, until they added up to more than half a decade. I didn't lose money during those 6 years. That's what made it invisible. My checking account never dropped because of it. The cost never showed up as a number I could see. It just showed up as a number that never got the chance to exist in the first place. Here's what finally made me sit down and actually run the numbers, instead of just feeling vaguely guilty about it. I put $300 a month into an account starting the year I actually began, and let it run for the years I actually had left until a normal retirement age. Then I ran the same $300 a month, same account, same growth rate, starting 6 years earlier, from the year I originally told myself I would. The difference wasn't 6 years worth of contributions. It was more than double that in the final number. Not because the earlier version of me was smarter or braver, just because money that starts compounding earlier gets more years to compound, and those extra years happen to be the most valuable ones, because they're the years compounding on top of compounding. I sat with that number longer than I want to admit, because there was no single day in those 6 years I could point to and say, that's the day I lost this money. It wasn't lost on any day. It just never got made, one quiet month at a time, by a decision that never felt big enough to notice. That's what makes this the most expensive decision most people make. Not because any single version of it costs much, because it's the only mistake you get to make thousands of times in a row without your brain ever flagging it as a mistake. You'd think once I ran that math, I'd never do this again with anything. I did it again almost immediately, just in a smaller, more embarrassing way. It started as a dull ache on the outside of my wrist, right where it meets my hand, the kind that shows up after too many hours typing. I noticed it on a Tuesday. I remember the day specifically because I flexed my hand under my desk, felt it pull, and thought, I'll deal with that once things settle down. Once work slowed down. Once I had a free week. I know exactly how that sentence sounds, because it's the exact sentence I just spent a whole video explaining to myself was the trap. By month 2, I couldn't hold a coffee mug by the handle without a specific little jolt running up my forearm. I switched to holding mugs with both hands, cupped underneath, and didn't even think about why until my girlfriend pointed it out at dinner one night. You've been doing that for weeks, she said. The mug thing. I hadn't noticed I'd built an entire workaround around a problem I hadn't dealt with. By the time I actually went in, 4 months in, what would have been a quick, cheap fix had turned into physical therapy twice a week for 2 months. I remember sitting in the waiting room the first day, filling out the intake form, and getting to the question, how long have you had this pain? And just staring at it for a second before writing the actual number down. 4 months looks a lot longer on paper than it ever felt like while I was living it. I told Marcus about it over beers, half laughing at myself, expecting him to laugh too. He didn't. He just looked at me for a second and said, "You just did the thing from your video." Flat, not even trying to be funny about it. I didn't have a comeback. He was right. And it annoyed me more than almost anything else that's happened while making these videos. Because I'd already explained the trap to an entire audience, on camera, and then walked straight into it myself with a coffee mug and a straight face. I think this decision hides so well because bad purchases announce themselves. You buy the car, the number's right there on the loan. You marry the wrong person, eventually there's a day it falls apart. Even a bad investment has a moment, a red number on a screen you can point to. Waiting doesn't have a moment. It doesn't cost you anything on any single Tuesday. It only costs you something once you add up every Tuesday at once, usually years later, usually by accident. And because there's no moment of pain attached to it, there's no moment your brain flags as a mistake worth fixing. A bad purchase teaches you something immediately. Waiting teaches you nothing, right up until the day you finally do the math. And by then, the lesson costs a lot more than it would have on day one. So here's what I changed, and it's smaller than you'd expect for something that cost me 6 years. I stopped letting "once I'm ready" be an answer I was allowed to give myself for anything that has a real cost to delaying. Money, health, hard conversations, all of it. Instead, I ask one specific question. Not, am I ready? I'm almost never fully ready, and I never will be. Just, what is genuinely stopping me from starting a smaller version of this today? Not the big, perfect version, a smaller one. $50 a month instead of $300, started this week instead of the ideal amount started someday. The wrist appointment booked for whenever the next opening is, instead of waiting for a mythical free week that was never actually coming. It's not a dramatic fix. It's just removing the one word that was doing all the damage. Once is a word that sounds like a plan and functions like a delay. And once I noticed how often I was using it, I started catching myself almost every time. So if you were guessing house or marriage or car or one bad investment, I get it. I guessed those too for years because they're the ones with a story attached, a closing date, a signature, a specific day you can point to and say, that's when it happened. The one that actually cost me the most doesn't have a day like that. It has 6 years of Tuesdays that each felt completely reasonable on their own, and only looked like a mistake once I added every single one of them together. If there's something you've been waiting to be ready for, money, your health, a conversation you keep pushing, I don't think the fix is finding the readiness. I don't think it's coming. I think the fix is asking what the smallest possible version of starting looks like today, and doing that instead of waiting for the version you'll never quite feel prepared for. Tell me, what's something you've been waiting to be ready for? I read every comment. And if you want more of this, subscribe, because the psychology behind the money decisions we make and rarely admit to is exactly what this channel is about. I'm Jake. I'll see you in the next one.